Hello, I'm Rob Daniels, council member with the City of DeSoto. What I want to talk about in today's podcast is what makes DeSoto DeSoto. I've seen a number of different postings and a number of different sites, and people have even talked to me about the fact that we're a small bedroom community. And not only that, when we do things like the roundabout or other things, you guys just want to be like the big cities. And that's not actually true. So it's one of those things that I really do want to come back and kind of talk about what makes DeSoto DeSoto. And in doing this, I went back and collected some information about the other cities around us, because one of the things when it's like you want to be like the big cities, what big cities are we talking about? Well, that'd be Overland Park, Shawnee, Lenexa, Olathe. So just to do some comparison, this is where I kind of geeked out and had a little bit of fun with numbers and statistics a little bit. But let's compare DeSoto to the other communities in Johnson County, to Johnson County, and to even a couple of communities outside of DeSoto. So a couple things. Johnson County is 480 square miles. 192 square miles of that's unincorporated. Now, the interesting thing is Johnson County just did a study on solar regulations and creating solar regulations. And in that study, they talked about the fact that they give a 2-mile buffer outside of cities for the cities to be able to plan and grow. Some cities it's bigger, some smaller. So one of the statistics that came out of that solar regulation study was the fact that there's only 16.24 square miles of unincorporated Johnson County that's outside of 2 miles of any city limit. So that's Johnson County as we see it today. So when we start talking about this, we come back and say, okay, how Overland Park? Overland Park is the largest city in Johnson County. It incorporates about 75.64 square miles. And the population numbers I get come from the 2020 census. And they've got just under 200,000 people. That gives them a population density of 2,607, a little over that, people per square mile. Next up would be Olathe. Olathe is 62.35 square miles with 137,000. So they dropped quite a bit in population, almost a little over 60,000. And they also dropped because of that in their population density of about 2,200 people per square mile. Now, I grew up in Overland Park since 1973, so I used to think Lenexa was bigger than Shawnee, but actually Shawnee's bigger in the sense that they've got 42.86 square miles, about 66,000 people. So that gives them a population density of about 1,552 people per square mile. Lenexa's close. They're at about 34.39, and their population is 54,000 according to the census. So again, that puts them at about 1,570 people per square mile. So those are your big four that are in Johnson County. So when we keep talking about, okay, DeSoto is going to grow, how big is it going to grow? We're going to become like one of the big cities. That's physically not going to be possible in a lot of ways. But let's compare that. And as we do, let's move to some of the little bit smaller cities. Gardner. The city of Gardner is a little over 10 square miles. Has a population of 21,000, a little over, and that gives them a population density of 2,086. So they're actually higher in population density than Lenexa and Shawnee. Spring Hill, a little under 9 square miles, population of about 6,600. So Spring Hill really comes close to DeSoto, and that DeSoto, you'll see in a couple minutes, is about 6,500 people. So population-wise, we're very, very similar in size to Spring Hill. Now, one thing Spring Hill's a little bit different is they do cross county lines, but that gives them a population density of 746 people per square mile. Big drop even from Gardner. So if you talk Edgerton's a little over 7 square miles. Their population is 1,713, according to the 2020 census. So that's 231 people per square mile. So they don't have a lot of population, but they did get the Amazon distribution center, the intermodal, that does give them a lot of industrial income. Okay. So when we start talking DeSoto, so those are the 4 big cities in Johnson County. Those are a couple of the smaller cities that are out in the areas that have unincorporated Johnson County around them. Pre-annexation, before we annexed the property right at K10 and Edgerton Evening Star Road, and before we annexed the 6,000 acres at Sunflower Army Ammunition Plant, we were at 11.3 square miles was the stat. And with the 2020 census, we're at 6,118 people. Population density, 541 people per square mile. If you talk post-annexation, we added about 6 to 7 square miles, so we almost doubled in our physical land size to 17.7 square miles. But with our population of the 2020 census at 6,118, that puts us at a population density of 345.65 people per square mile. And we have a lot of large lot lands. So when you take and look at this overall, Overland Park has the highest population density. Now, in this chart, you'll see a couple things that were not in there that I've talked about yet already. And that's the fact that Eudora, Tonganoxie, Basehor, and Bonner Springs I included in there. Bonner Springs, 16 square miles, so they're bigger. They're 7,700, almost 7,800 people, and that gives them population density of about 486 people per square mile. Basehor, a little over 7 square miles, a little under 6,000 people, 820 people per square mile. Tongi, a little over 4 miles, 5,300 people, and that actually puts them up with Lenexa and Shawnee as far as population density. Now, the funny one is, to me, the one that kind of caught me off guard was Eudora, because technically Eudora looks like it only has about 3 square miles. They have a lot of county area around them, and they've got 6,600 people in that. So that puts them actually number 2 in population density. So when you look at this and you start talking about you want to be like the big cities, we're not going to be able to come up and end up with a population density, at least not for decades upon decades, that's going to be anywhere near Overland Park, Olathe, Lenexa, Shawnee. We are DeSoto. We are a small town community. Even if we double our population to where we're almost 13,000, our population density is not going to even be where we're pushing, maybe starting to get to Shawnee, Lenexa, but that's going to be a long time. And so we are a small town. We're going to remain a small town. So the bottom line is we do not have the residential land available right now. And at 6,500 people, even doubling, we're still a small town. But here's probably the most important, most critical piece of all of this. The bottom line is that it's the people of DeSoto. Yes, the people out there yelling wiener and posting it on in and around DeSoto. It's people talking about the roundabout. It's the small town community feel where when somebody loses a dog, people help them find it. And it's that small town community that makes DeSoto DeSoto. So even as we grow, even as our population grows, we're not going to be able to get to the big cities. We don't want to be the big cities. Many of us moved out to DeSoto not to be in the big cities, but to have some space and to have that community where we have a sports program that lets our kids learn to be good character and not necessarily have to be competitive. So DeSoto is DeSoto. It's the people that make it that way, and let's keep that going.